I wanted to add a quick pre-roll to all episodes to tell you about a live in-person event I am running on Friday the 28th of June in Barnes, southwest London. It's called Dare Greatly in the Coaching Arena. Together we will get hyper-focused on your most effective 2 to 3 personal strategies to propel your business forward. You will stop overanalyzing and second-guessing when you meet your new business besties to brainstorm, support, and problem solve with. You will leave having outlined your vision and strategy with a newfound sense of connection and focus. I haven't gone into detail as to exactly what we're going to cover on the day yet, so I have opened up a waitlist to ask for the greatest themes coming up right now, and then I will build the event around that. So you can join the waitlist. The link is in the show notes just for the next week or so. There is a special offer of £97 for the full day, including lunch and everything, only for those on the waitlist. So if you are interested in hearing more with no commitment at all at this stage until I fully confirm the agenda, then do sign up for the waitlist this week. You will find the link in the show notes to the waitlist and sign up now. I don't do live events often and I can't wait to meet you. Hello and welcome to Women in the Coaching Arena podcast. I'm so glad you're here. I'm Jo Lott, a business mentor and ICF-accredited coach, and I help coaches to build brilliant businesses. I know that when you prepare to enter the arena, there is fear, self-doubt, comparison, anxiety, uncertainty. You can tend to armor up and protect yourself from vulnerability. In this podcast, I'll be sharing honest, not hype, practical and emotional tools to support you to make the difference that you're here for. Dare greatly, you belong in this arena. Hello, welcome to this episode of Women in the Coaching Arena. I am so glad you are here. Today, I'm speaking with Chloe Myers, who is a coach and business owner who made a powerful decision that has completely changed her life and her work. She gave up alcohol. In this conversation, Chloe will share how choosing an alcohol-free life has brought her more confidence, energy, and success, both personally and professionally. We'll talk about the strong drinking culture that many of us grew up with, how it impacts our ability to think clearly, and why so many business owners are now choosing a different path. So if you have ever wondered about the link between your habits and your business growth, then you are going to find this conversation really thought-provoking. Hi, Chloe. Thank you for agreeing to be a guest on Women in the Coaching Arena. I am so glad you are here. So Chloe was a previous client of mine. She is an amazing coach. She is an amazing business owner. She takes huge action. And she also niched down into helping people live do you call it a sober? How do you phrase this? You have a certain way of phrasing it. Tell me more, Chloe.
I mean, yeah, I like alcohol free, but I like sobriety because it's the thing that you get, not the thing you're giving up. But also, I don't know, the word sober implies kind of AA and recovery, which isn't quite my vibes. I actually don't feel like I've got quite the right word for it yet.
That's it, alcohol free. I knew you had a different way of saying it. So thank you for sharing. So I would love to hear your journey of going alcohol free and how that's led you to what you're doing now.
Yeah, so I was a big drinker. I would say I was like a professional drinker rather than a problem drinker. So, I was really good at it. I drank all the time, but I was managing my life pretty well. I think some people might call it functional alcoholic, but I mean, I don't feel like I was that extreme by any means. And obviously we all have those niggles over the years, where you wake up and you're like, I'm never drinking again. And then it's like 2:00 that afternoon and the sun comes out and you're in a beer garden somewhere drinking again. So I had lots of times where I thought about stopping or where I tried or I'd do a dry January. And then when I was reviewing my first year of coaching clients, so this was like really general coaching, no niche whatsoever, you'd have told me off. But I got to the end of the year and I was home educating at that time. My son and I, we did it as a bit of a project to evaluate the clients I'd worked with and like what were the common themes and, male and female and age groups and did I meet them online or in person, all that sort of thing. And it just hadn't been so blindingly obvious when I was doing the coaching, but reflecting back on it, I had half of my clients were working towards whatever goal they were working towards, and alcohol would come up as something that was slowing them down. And then the other half were just absolutely smashing life, and they were doing amazing, amazing things. And they'd come to coaching to like do even more. And then I realized, like, at some point, all of those people told me that they don't drink. So one of them, through coaching, she was headhunted for her dream job, doubled her salary. And so I asked her, how are you going to celebrate? And she just said, I don't drink anymore, so I'm going to book a spa day. And it was that moment where I was like, oh, I've never like heard someone say that. Not like I can't drink or I'm alcoholic, but like just I choose not to drink. And so I just realized there was something in it, and I really needed to seriously give it a try. And so I did. And it was life-changing, and I haven't looked back.
Wow. And do you mean give it a try as in niching down to this, or do you mean giving up alcohol yourself?
Yeah, giving up alcohol myself. I was already coaching and we were working together. I was trying all different niches all the time. And then I just realized, like everyone keeps asking me how on earth I stopped drinking because they knew me before. And they couldn't compute how this professional drinker had suddenly become this sober person and seemed so happy with it. People would come and talk to me about it and say, yeah, like I really want to do it, but. And so I was asked about it at a party. We're on this amazing boat party, goes out to sea, and obviously there's a band downstairs, there's a band upstairs on the boat, and you're watching the sunset. It's gorgeous. And I wasn't drinking. And so many people talked to me about it and asked me how they could do the same and how on earth was I doing it. And literally that next day, I made the whole of my Sober and Sunny course in one day. So I was like, okay, I've got an idea here. And as he said at the beginning, I'm an action taker. I can't help myself. If I have an idea, I'm going to do it straight away.
And it's such a good course. I actually need to open it up again because, as you know, I have always wanted to stop drinking. And I did your course and I managed an entire 3 months of no booze at all. And I went to weddings. I did all sorts of things that previously you would have thought you just can't do that without having a drink in your hand. And then my downfall was going to France. And as you know, I love champagne. And they talked about having champagne in the hot tub in France. And then I thought, oh, well, I'll just make an exception. And then obviously you make your exception and then it's just a slippery slope, isn't it? So I need to revisit your course because it was amazing for me, the entire process from really thinking about why you want to do it. I guess that total life upgrade that I think I called it at the time, of everything is better, patience with the kids, sleep is better, the clarity of thinking for my work was better. I earned more money in that quarter as well. So yeah, I really hear you on the total life upgrade. So you've got the rest of this call to talk me back into logging back in.
And the point was you met your goal. You set a 100-day goal and you met that.
Yeah.
So, no shame whatsoever. Like you did what you set out to do. I know so many people that would do a year off, they'd lose all this weight and they felt amazing. And then they'd get to the end of the year and they're like, oh, I did that. I've proven I'm not an alcoholic. And then they're straight back into their old ways. It's not even that they drink less than they used to. They go straight back to how they used to be. And this is the issue also with Dry January, for example, where when you're looking forward to the end date, when you're counting down that 31 days or 100 days or whatever it is, then basically you're still putting alcohol on a pedestal. And you're looking forward to it. And that means that you feel like you're depriving yourself and you're challenging yourself, and therefore it's hard. But if instead you're focused on more sleep, being more connected with your kids, making more money, if you're focused on all the things you're getting, like why would you choose alcohol? And this is my thing. It's about finding new ways to work, rest and play, and having alcohol as just one option of many, rather than like the things you immediately do after a stressful day or when you see your friends or when you're celebrating, rather than it being your go-to solution for everything. You find all these other things that you can do. And then eventually you're like, oh yeah, I'm just not going to choose alcohol because it's not as good as the other choices.
So true, isn't it? And it is definitely that association in your head, which is obviously probably planted, literally from childhood.
Mhm.
Let's have a drink. Oh, I had a terrible day. Let's have a drink. So I love the idea of finding other hobbies. And that's exactly what happened, because you suddenly got the energy to do different things in the evening than just collapse, with a wine to relax at the end of a day. So tell me more about how your life journey has been since giving up, in terms of that total life upgrade and things you've noticed, and obviously any other clients and things as well.
You become a whole new you. And in my case, I feel like I reconnected with my 14-year-old self from before I started drinking. So like, I just love reading and having baths and going for walks and like just much more kind of quiet. Whereas, and I think I'd used alcohol to become who I thought I was supposed to be, or to like be a bigger, louder, more extroverted version of myself. I feel like I've much more got in touch with who I really am. And obviously in coaching, we're always talking about being more authentic, aren't we? And I found like that's really helped me and to feel more confident, because probably my drinking started to help me feel more confident. But I'm so much more confident now because I'm just so much stronger in who I am. My husband and I we weren't compatible anymore. So we separated. So I've had quite a lot of stuff go on, which is all good. We're really good friends. But in terms of in my clients, just seeing them saying, like everyone keeps telling me I look 10 years younger. And I had one client who he was on the waiting list for knee surgery, and he lost so much weight that he came off of that waiting list, no longer needs surgery. Had a client just in the last couple of weeks message me and say, I've had to double all of my financial goals because they're too easy. And they were really stretchy when we started working together. People dating for the first time, going on their first ever sober first dates, which is a terrifying experience. I have also been through that fairly recently. So, just all kinds of unexpected successes. I think people really worry that they're going to become less connected with their friends and they're going to feel lonely. And what you actually find is your friendships just really change, and the friendships that are important to you get stronger. And the more peripheral ones that were just convenient because they could go to the pub at the same time as you, they kind of fade out. But it's a choice. It's not that they've shunned you, but like, if they are the kind of friends that are going to shun you, then you realize like, I don't actually want to be friends with you anyway. So I'm quite happy with that solution. So yeah, so people obviously come to it wanting one thing. Like for me, sleep was a huge part of it, but then the benefits that you see are just so much wider. It's everything. And so, yeah, I love hearing people's stories of how it's impacted them in ways that they didn't see. Like one woman I've been working with, she's completely changed her career. She's left an unhappy relationship that she felt quite stuck in. She passed her driving test. She'd got back into paint. Like just the things that she has changed in her life in a really short space of time are just incredible. And in my first 6 months of sobriety, I wrote and self-published my book. So you've got all that time and energy and you use it. Partly that's almost a coping mechanism because sitting with your feelings is quite hard. So you start doing stuff all the time, like reconnecting with hobbies and old friends. And yeah, it's just wonderful.
Yeah, totally. It really is that energy, isn't it? Even if I have one glass of wine, I don't sleep the same. I wake up a little bit grouchy, and therefore it's a vicious cycle, isn't it? Because then you're so exhausted. All you want to do is sit on the sofa and have a drink rather than go out and have an amazing time doing something.
Yeah, it's the friends. 9 times out of 10, that's the thing. So people will say to me, like, I don't even really like drinking that much anymore. Or, it just ruins my whole weekend. It's not worth it. And I think I could stop. I did try January and I really enjoyed it. But I'm never, like, all of my friends drink all the time. That's the only way we socialize. And what will I do with my time? Because I won't want to hang out with, like, will I still be able to go to the pub? And that's the barrier. But it's about recognizing that it's okay for friendships to change as you kind of grow and evolve and become a different person. Your friendships, of course, they're going to change. And change is scary, isn't it? And it's the unknown. And especially, where I live, there is such a strong drinking culture here. And I would always comment on this when the children were little, like the dads would go out and go to the pub. But for the mums, we never allowed ourselves to just meet up for a coffee or to go to the pub. We always would exercise But really, it was just so we could go to the pub. So we'd go rowing or go for a run or something. But really, we were just, because we were exercising, we were doing a good thing. So we were allowed to go to the pub afterwards. And I'm very lucky. I live by the sea. So we've got lots of beaches here. And there are certain beaches that I had to avoid for like a full year or a full summer because they were so associated with drinking for me. And then other beaches aren't. So I was fine. I still had plenty of beach time. But so some of it, you can still go to the pub, but I took about 6 weeks break and I just didn't go anywhere near the pub because I just didn't want to risk it. I wanted to be really confident in my sobriety before I even attempted it. And then it was fine, but also I'm like more picky. I don't just go because it's Friday. I go because there's a band playing that I love, or that my friend is visiting that I want to see, or, I go out with a purpose rather than just because it's Friday.
So where do you feel like this culture comes from, and why is it so dangerous that drink is so widely accepted?
So I grew up, my dad's an alcoholic still, but to me, he was my hero. I didn't see it as problematic. I could not wait to be an adult and be able to drink. I can see that in my own children. They're teenagers now, one of them particularly, and it's everywhere, right? Like the thing that gets me is how, if you look at greetings cards, so birthday cards, Mother's Day cards, thank you to your teacher cards, they all say things like it's gin o'clock, Prosecco time, or, to teachers, it will say, my child is the reason you drink. And, I didn't even bat an eyelid at these things in the past. But now that I'm out of that world, I look at that and I think, I grew up with an alcoholic parent and I never once believed it was my fault. But we tell our children that alcohol is bad, but also that they are so bad that they're the reason that we drink. And just how confusing is that for them? But it is so ingrained in our culture. If you go on holiday in Spain or something and there's like a really rowdy group in the nightclub, they're British and it's embarrassing. It is such a part of our culture. And this was, even in lockdown, this was Boris's thing, wasn't it? He couldn't imagine Brits not being able to go to the pub for a pint. You think he was right, but there were also so many other things. But that was the thing that made him reluctant to lock down.
So true, isn't it? And it's funny, the reaction that you get when I said to my friends and things, oh, I'm doing 100 days of no drinking. That's weird versus when we, for example, would smoke, people would think that's disgusting. Why would you do that? Because it's bad for you. So it's funny that we have this absolute resistance to supporting someone to make healthy choices.
And it is none of anyone else's business what's in your glass, unless they're the one paying for it, in which case they should be glad that, you're buying a cheaper drink. But it's none of their business. If you are having a lemonade and they're having a pint or a glass of wine, who cares? You're still there. You're engaging in the conversation. We've all, certainly I have been on both sides of that. I'm not really drinking tonight. And then everyone peer pressures you into doing it. Might have been on, I've definitely peer pressured people into it as well. You're so boring. You're no fun when you're not drinking. And once the others are drunk, they don't care if you're drinking or not. It's just that first bit. And really it's because you're shining a light on the fact that they are drinking. And, that clearly it's triggering something for them, because why do they care if you're drinking or not?
Yeah, that's so true. It really is triggering. And there is a huge uptake of no drinking amongst entrepreneurs that I've noticed. Lots of people in my business of coaching group, I've heard say, I don't drink. People in my mastermind have completely stopped as well. So have you seen that upturn?
Yes, I go to all these coaching events and networking things, and almost always the people who I meet where I'm like, you really inspire me. Let's go out afterward. Let's go and get a drink. And they'll be like, oh, I actually don't drink. I'm like, yeah, that's fine. I mean, I get FX Blue or whatever. So yes, I find 9 times out of 10 when I meet someone who really inspires me, it then turns out that they don't drink.
So interesting, isn't it? Because they've got the energy to be able to think creatively and do different things. So as you know, my listeners, just like you, are coaches who are wanting to grow their business. How can this help fuel their business success?
So it's the time and energy. It's the looking and feeling better, so you're more confident putting yourself out there. It's the finding new ways to have fun. because that will spark creativity, which will help you design a new program or just do some problem solving that you might not have managed otherwise. But I also think a really big part of it is that, my coaching style, I'm quite challenging. I don't let anyone get by with the easy answers. So it's challenging ourselves and showing that we're leading by example, reminding ourselves what it's like to be on the other side of the kind of coaching experience where you're being pushed out of your comfort zone, you're being challenged to do things that are stretchy and difficult and uncomfortable. I think that's really important for us as coaches to remember what it's like for our clients who are however many steps behind us and are sat there wishing you'd just ask them an easy question because it's like too much. And I think it's really important for us to remember that feeling and keep tapping into it and showing that we practice what we preach.
And that makes me think of the emotions that we go through, because obviously most of us are drinking to block out emotions. I know it's certainly my first thought. If I have something bad happen, I literally can sense it. I think I need to stop this. I can't wait to relax tonight and to switch off. It is that switch off from emotions for me is what would immediately trigger from a bad experience, for example. How do you handle those difficult experiences if you can't block out the world?
A piece of work I did with one of my clients was around the transition when she got home from work, and exactly what you were talking about. She'd normally pour a wine or a G&T and sit outside and drink it. But instead she switched it up to just getting some really nice biscuits and having a really lovely cup of tea out of her favorite mug and that sort of thing. So that transition. But I think the point that I really want to make clear here is that it's not just the difficult, it's not the anger and the sadness and the stress. It's also like celebrations and socializing and fun, and every big emotion, we dull it out with alcohol. So for me, and obviously those ones don't feel so hard to experience, but when you think you don't let yourself experience those more extreme emotions, like we are used to drowning them out. And so for me, mindfulness was such a big part of it. All the same stuff, right? Mindfulness, journaling, gratitude, all the stuff that we all talk about all the time as coaches. It's so important. And at first, so I did my first 8 weeks, I coincided it with doing an 8-week mindfulness course. So I basically just replaced my alcohol addiction with mindfulness, and I was meditating for 2 hours a day. But I had time to do that then. That worked really well for me, dealing with the emotions. And I've since trained as an emotions coach. So I get to support people with all of that in some really fun ways as well.
Yeah, you do. It is interesting that it is all the big emotions, even the good emotions. It's exciting. I get to drink champagne. As you heard, that was the catalyst of me stopping my amazing 100 days of no drinking was, oh my gosh, I could sit in a hot tub in France with a glass of champagne. It was an association to that is my idea of heaven, the bubbles, the excitement. So it's funny, isn't it, how we would want to block that out or what's going on there?
Yeah. And I hear you, because that's one for me as well. But actually it is just as fun if you are drinking any other bubbly drink from a fancy glass. A hot tub is always fun. But I think as well that you get quite hot and sweaty in a hot tub. And the last thing you need is to dehydrate yourself. And the trouble is you keep drinking more and more because you're hot. So I did a big walk last weekend, 18 miles. And I've done this walk several times. And normally I end up in the pub afterwards. But even this time I got in, I was like, I've got a bit of a headache. I think I'm dehydrated. And before I wouldn't have recognized that as dehydration. I would have just thought it was my hangover starting. And think how much damage was I actually doing to myself there? And the trouble is when you drink, your immune system is so focused on fighting off the poison of the alcohol that it can't resolve any other issues that are going on in your body. So the dehydration or the sleep, all of it, you need to not drink so that your body can look after itself properly.
Yeah, totally. And like you say, it's not even the feeling you want from the drink, it's the excitement of the drink being in your hand. Because I did find when I did that and I bought all sorts of alcohol-free beer and Prosecco, and it was still exciting. I would be open a bottle of Prosecco. Is that what they call it?
Yeah, and it's like £3.
I want that little switch in my head to tell me I'm having a good time by this fizzy drink in my glass.
Yeah. And you hit all of the senses. So you have the cold feeling of the bottle, the sound of it popping, the sound of the bubbles, the smell, the taste, whether it's a beer or, a can or whatever, you still have all of those sensations. So it's still triggering all those things. Like it was never all about the alcohol. All of those different things are going on for you still. And so when I had a really stressful day, I still went to the pub and got an alcohol-free beer. And I still did that, that when it opens, you have the first sip and like, oh, you still get that because the alcohol never was hitting your system that quickly anyway.
So if someone is thinking about having an alcohol-free life, what would their first steps be?
I think most people do start by taking a shorter break. And I think that is a really good step. But I promise you, abstinence is easier than moderation. So you just make the decision, I'm not drinking anymore. I'm focusing on all the things that I'm going to gain, like time and energy. And then it just doesn't feel hard. And I think as well, the first step that made the difference for me doing it successfully compared to all the times where I didn't was changing my identity. So similarly to wanting to be a coach and an entrepreneur, you have to take that identity on before it's fully true. Because if you don't believe that you're a coach and you don't believe yourself as an entrepreneur, how are you ever going to get a client? So you have to let go of your old like party girl identity or whatever that was and take on like, what is my new identity? And maybe it is coach, entrepreneur, success story, like whatever identity you want to have, like you have to take that on first and let go of the old drinking identity. And then it honestly is easy.
And you had a great exercise in your course of thinking about what you'll gain from this period of alcohol-free living. Tell us more about why that purpose or why really matters.
So with my coaching clients, quite often you'll say, like, what do you want? How do you want to feel? And they'll really easily tell you what they don't want, or like, I don't want to feel stressed anymore. I don't want to feel anxious anymore. And then when you switch it to, well, if you didn't feel anxious, how would you feel? If you didn't feel stressed, how would you feel? And people find it really hard. But if you can't say what the thing is you're trying to get to, you're never going to get there. And even if you did, you wouldn't recognize it because you didn't even know that's what you were aiming for. And so for some people, the opposite of anxious might be calm. For someone else, it might be confident. For someone else, it might be happy. So we can't assume that. And I think it's exactly the same thing. If we focus on all the things we don't want about drinking, we're going to stay in that stuck mindset. But if you focus on, like, I want to be energized, I want to be successful, I want to be confident, if you can focus on all the things that you want, it's so much easier to get them and to celebrate achieving them because you know that's what you were trying to do.
It's so true, isn't it? People really resist that. As do I in a coaching session. If someone asks me to paint the picture of success, it's the hardest thing to do. Crazy, isn't it? So I think you have a 5-day challenge to help people to make this change.
Yep. So I've got a 5-day challenge. You've got the link, and it's the challenge isn't that you have to not drink for 5 days, although obviously I do encourage that. But the challenge is to challenge your thinking about drinking in those 5 days. So basically, you're just sent emails each day that ask you a series of questions to reflect on. And you can do that yourself, or you can respond to the email and I will maybe ask you some follow-up questions based on your answers. It's just 5 days and really gets you thinking, especially about the work, rest and play elements, and leaves the play one till last because that's the bit people find hardest.
Crazy, isn't it? Why do we all resist having fun?
Yes.
So if someone's listening to this, what would you want them to take away from listening to this episode?
I think most of us, I'm going to make an assumption here, but most of us have spent most of our adult lives as drinkers. And if we've taken a break, it was because we were pregnant or sick or something. And so I'd just say, give sobriety a chance, because you probably haven't given it a good chance of more than a month or two since you were a teenager. If you want to get different results, you've got to change something drastic.
Love that. And where would people find you?
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn as Chloe Myers or Instagram as Chloe Myers Coach.
Love it. Thank you so much, Chloe. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. It was certainly inspiration for me, remembering my own 3 months without alcohol and how good I actually felt. Especially as we get older, the energy starts to wane and alcohol can really interrupt our sleep. So I definitely need to go and check out Chloe's 5-day challenge again. And if you would like to do the same, it's amazing. The questions that she asks were so helpful. So you will find the link to that email 5-day challenge in the show notes. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And like I say at the end of every episode, trust yourself, believe in yourself, and be the wise gardener who keeps on watering the seed. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Women in the Coaching Arena. I have a mass of free resources on my website, joannalottcoaching.com. That's Joanna with an A and Lott with 2 T's, joannalottcoaching.com. And I'll also put links in the show notes below. Let me know if you found this episode useful, share it with a friend and leave me a review, and I will personally thank you for that. Remember to trust yourself, believe in yourself, and be the wise gardener who keeps on watering the seed. Get into the arena, dare greatly, and try.